and 75 years of marriage. Former President Jimmy Carter and his wife Rosalynn reflect on their lives together and the current state of American politics.
I believe that we've overcome even worse and more serious problems in the past than we have to face today.
It was the first Sunday in July of 1946. World War II had been over for months, and the victorious United States was emerging as a global superpower. On that day, 140 miles south of Atlanta, in the small, quiet town of Plains, Georgia, a 21-year-old recent Naval Academy graduate named James Earl Carter, Jr., and his 18-year-old fiancée, Eleanor Rosalynn Smith, exchanged wedding vows. They walked down the aisle of a Methodist church and into a partnership that would take them to the height of American power and all over the world. Former First Lady Rosalynn Carter is now 93, and former President Jimmy Carter is 96, making him the longest living president in American history. This Wednesday, July 7th, marks their 75th wedding anniversary, another record among U.S. presidents. And it was for that occasion that I spoke with them last week in Plains, where they still live, about their life together and a few other things. President Carter, Mrs. Carter, it is so wonderful to see both of you. Thank you for talking with us. 75 years of marriage. That is remarkable. Congratulations. Mrs. Carter, what is the secret to this partnership?
Well, I think we give each other space and we try to do things together. We're always looking for things we can do together, like birding and fly fishing and just anything we can find to do together.
And President Carter, I think people look at this long and happy marriage, and I think they'd love to know what, especially couples who have been through what the two of you have been through. What's the secret when you don't see eye to eye on something for how you patch it back together?
At the end of the day, we try to become reconciled and overcome all the differences that arose during the day. We also make up and give each other a kiss before we go to sleep, still in the bed, and we always read the Bible every night, which kind of adds a different aspect to our life. So we really try to become completely reconciled each night before we go to sleep.
I'm asking about that, Mrs. Carter, because the story is when you were writing your book together, it was difficult for the two of you to work together.
It was not easy. It's the worst thing. I mean, it's probably the closest thing to bringing us to a divorce that we ever did. It was awful.
But you got through it.
We got through it. But we had help and say, Mrs. Carter, you say this, and President Carter, you say this, but we got through it.
And to those Americans who see the both of you and want to know, how are you doing? What would you say, Mrs. Carter?
Doing good. You're doing good, both of us.
And President Carter?
Well, we've aged a lot, and I swim 3 times a day, and I walk every day. And so we stay in good physical shape as best we can with our handicaps. And we've had to live a quite restricted life the last year or so with the problem with the virus. But we've succeeded very well. And I think in general that handicap in movement has brought us even closer together. So that's one thing for which I'm thankful.
And President Carter, you have now lived long enough to see this reevaluation of your presidency. There are 2 new major biographies out that argue that you didn't get the credit that you deserved for so much of what you did as president, whether it was climate change, energy, human rights, the Camp David Accords, the Panama Canal treaties. How do you look on what's going on right now with your presidency?
Well, I'm glad to know that people are not remembering that during my administration, we tried to keep the peace and we cherished our human rights. So peace and human rights were the basis for my campaign and also my administration. So we came out of the White House completely satisfied with the way we had acted in the trials that we made to overcome difficulties. And most of the time we succeeded, at least we thought we did.
And Mrs. Carter, when you look at this reevaluation, if that's what you want to call it, I mean, how do you see it? Is it about time? How do you think about it?
I think it's about time that people really realized what Jamie did. And the books are helping, and I've been pleased with that.
So, President Carter, there's so much to ask you both about. But as you think back on your presidency and your time as a former president, what are you most proud of? And is there a big regret you have?
Well, we're very proud of having been elected and having served as president. That's the epitome of our lives, I think, in totality. And I would say that we did what we pledged to do in the campaign. We kept the peace, and we obeyed the law, and we told the truth, and we honored human rights. Those were the things that were important to me.
And during your presidency, there was clearly a big partisan divide in this country. There were disagreements with Republicans, certainly with President Reagan, that campaign of 1980. But today, the partisanship, it just seems to be off the charts. It's hyper partisan. Do you think you could have done what you did as president if in this environment?
No, if the Republicans had pledged while I was president not ever to pass any of my bills, I would have been handicapped greatly. And I'm glad he didn't do that. But we had a very good batting average with the Congress when I was in office. I think we had the best one since Lyndon Johnson did. So we had a good administration.
And Mrs. Carter, as you think about the partisanship of today, and certainly there were difficult moments during your presidency in getting done what you wanted to get done. But today you not only have partisanship, you have a president who claims that he won an election that he didn't win. You have millions and millions of Americans, including here in Georgia, who say that President Trump won re-election. How do you absorb that?
It's hard. It's hard for me to know what was happening and then to hear what was being said about it. And
it's known quite accurately as the big lie. And how Trump gets away with it is hard to comprehend. And there's a time for extreme partisanship. I think that adds to the environment within which a big lie would be possible to sustain.
Do you believe that, what would you say to Georgians, your fellow Georgians, so many of whom believe that President Trump won? And the law has now been changed in the state of Georgia that might have made it difficult for President Biden or Senator Warnock or Senator Ossoff to win.
Well, we have a few of those people in Plains, unfortunately. But I don't think they would change their mind. They're convinced of a lie, and they're going to maintain it until they are gone, perhaps. So we just have to live with that and accommodate other people what they believe and not be overly critical of them.
Did you ever think, Mrs. Carter, that your own Carter Center would be involved in monitoring elections in Georgia? You've monitored elections all over the world, over 100 of them, and you're now involved in monitoring elections in this country.
In this state? No, I never thought we'd have to monitor elections in Georgia. I just assumed elections were accurate, and I trusted our officials. Looking back on it, it's not a very good thing I did, but I trusted the officials. And I still do to some extent. I think we know the ones that don't tell the truth and try to, well, I don't call it corruption, because I don't think that's a good definition for it.
And they're monitoring, President Carter, they're monitoring for fraud. They're also monitoring for access to make sure people who should be able to vote can vote. How concerned are you? I mean, again, the fact that your own Carter Center is now involved in this.
I think all over the world, we've always, ever since the Carter Center was founded, tried to promote maximum involvement among the people in the election itself, and make sure that votes were counted accurately. And all of the things have gone by the board because of a Republican state legislature who take the position that Trump has espoused. So I think we'll just have to grin and bear it until the time comes when it's changed, which I hope will be soon.
President Biden, you've known him a very long time. He was the first United States senator to endorse you when you ran for president.
I remember.
How is he doing? We're almost 6 months in. What are his main challenges now? How's he doing?
Well, the immigration question still has arisen, and I don't think we still worked out a accommodation with China that's satisfactory for the long term. And the legislation that he wants to do is still under discussion. We don't know how it's going to turn out. But I think that in general, Joe Biden has done very well.
And Mrs. Carter, what do you think his main challenges are?
I think it's a great relief to have Joe Biden in office after what we had before, so I'm very pleased about it.
Two things I want to specifically ask both of you, and Mrs. Carter, to you first. Mental health has been a primary interest to you. You've poured a lot of energy into it. And we've seen with the pandemic, it's underlined how difficult mental and emotional health is for many Americans. What is the one thing you'd like to see the federal government do to improve the Americans' ability to get the help they need?
I think that making a big issue out of it would help, because I work very hard trying to remove the stigma of mental illness. And I think that one thing that has happened is that the situation has changed that a little bit, done away a little bit with the stigma. I've been pleased to see that. I think more people are seeking help than they did in the past. And I just hope that people will know that they don't have to suffer from mental illnesses. There's treatment now. Everybody can live a good life in their communities, working and leading a normal life with a mental illness.
And President Carter, I want to ask you to look ahead. As you think about your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren and their future in this country, are you fearful for the United States, or are you more hopeful?
Both. Sometimes I'm fearful and sometimes I'm hopeful, but overwhelmingly, I'm hopeful. I have confidence in the basic integrity of American people in totality. And I believe that we've overcome even worse and more serious problems in the past than we have to face today. And so in looking at the historical path of America, I still have ultimate hope in the American people.
How do you see that, Mrs. Carter?
I think that's a good answer. I think we have to have hope. Sometimes it's hard with the issues and the things that are on news all the time, to try to figure out what really to believe. But in the end, I think everything will be okay.
We watch the NewsHour in your leadership and assessment every night, and that kind of helps to reassure us. And I think we don't watch Fox presentations very much, we watch MSNBC and CNN pretty regularly. And the other aspects of the social media, we don't really become involved in it. So we have a fairly good balance of the news coverage. So I think with Biden in office and with the inherent qualities of American people's judgment, I would say I'm fairly optimistic about the future.
Well, we are very grateful to both of you for talking with us today and on the occasion of your 75th wedding anniversary. Congratulations on that. It's really wonderful to see both of you. Thank you very much.
We appreciate you. Thank you.